I affirm the OECD defines environmental protection as any activity to maintain or restore the environment. It consists of preventing the degradation of ecosystems. And Barron's explains that resource extraction covers four material groups: fossil fuels, metallurgy, industrial business, biomass, including forestry. And Oxford Dictionary defines should as indicating obligation or correctness, typically when criticizing actions. Thus, I value institutional justice, since the topic of actions of the state and justice determines what states owe to individuals. First, all more theories assuming that human life is valuable, or they would have no reason to guide action. The value of human life demands the protection of minority cultures, since the choices that autonomy entails require meaningful options that only a culture provides. Kimlicka writes, the rights of minority cultures are consistent with autonomy. Our capacity to form a conception of the good is tied to our cultural memberships, since the context of individual choices, the options, our language, the culture provides. Deciding how to lead lives involves exploring the possibilities our culture makes available. The minority cultures may need protection from the political decisions of majority cultures to provide this context. Second, states must include marginalized groups, or their decisions will ignore the interests of the excluded. The app is an epistemic prerequisite to accurate calculations that are all frameworks that ensures that all moral subjects are accounted for. Butler explains, the epistemic capacity to apprehend life depends on life being produced according to norms that qualify as life. Ontology thus raises the ethical prerogative of what it must guard against violence. Subjects are constituted through norms that shift and produce the terms to which subjects are recognized. Our capacity to discern the subject's being depends on norms that facilitate recognition. Moral systems often encounter spectral versions of what they claim to know, thus their subjects not quite recognizable as subjects, and lives not quite recognized as lives. Third, our discussion of less industrialized nations must focus on the concerns of the indigenous communities. Colonial relations with knowledge production continue to shape American education, since existing processes silence anti-colonialist dissent to disadvantaged communities without information technology. Their framework suffers an epistemic bias, since power relations taint philosophical claims. Day 1 writes, the discourse of indigenous knowledge is ruptures of conventional knowledge production, validation in American education, traditional paradigms constrain many from challenging dominant knowledge and speak about indigenous knowledge. The decolonization of American education involves personal risk. My objective is to provide a critical epistemology that ruptures normalized categories of what constitutes valid knowledge and challenges colonial knowledge production that shapes academic practices. We must understand knowledge as contextual, since applied differently given local histories and environments. This project is critical given the power balances between groups that have knowledge dissemination technology. Thus, the standard is empowering indigenous communities. My advocacy is that less industrialized countries in Latin America should substantially increase community-managed forests modeled on Mexico. The government will provide technical and financial assistance. Local communities now own their own forests and can have sustainable timber production, but must obey environmental regulations. I reserve the right to clarify. Community-managed forests uniquely help indigenous communities. Bray 1 explains, researchers of sustainable forest management argue that improved stewardship requires transferring responsibility to local communities who get their livelihoods from it. The Ejidos and indigenous communities control 80% of Mexico's forests. Communities manage common property forests for timber production as well as finished timber products while maintaining biodiversity of forest cover. And advantage 1 is environmental protection. Meta-analysis through the community forest enterprises in Mexico halt deforestation and increase forest cover. Bray 2. Studies in Mexico, regional and national scope, should consistently show that community forest enterprises perform similarly to protect areas and forest cover. A study of 3 regions over 20 years found that community forests retain 95% of forest cover. Studies in Southern Mexico, the community forests perform better than protected and a very low deforestation rate of 0.002%. Sierra Norte community forest rate 3% expansion of forest cover over 20 years. And after centuries of living on their land, many indigenous people consider their natural environment an important part of their cultural heritage. Day 2 writes, indigenous knowledge encapsulates the everyday realities of local peoples. These knowledges are part of a cultural heritage that the community helps in part of the younger generation. Indigenous epistemology is part of the direct experience of nature and its relationship with the social world that includes the experience of local people in their natural environment. The indigenous knowledge is accumulated by people who, after centuries of residence, develop an in-depth understanding of their particular world. And destroying this unique indigenous knowledge outweighs all other colonialist impacts. 1, strength of link. The day 1 evidence in the framework says that we must first protect the unique knowledge and perspective of indigenous peoples, or we will only legitimate the dominant colonialist thinking. Thus, this impact is the strongest link back to the framework. 2, reversibility. A poor economy can be fixed with other policies, but there's no way to recreate an entire ecosystem with literally hundreds of different species after it's been bulldozed. This mitigates other impacts since they can be solved in the future. 3, uniqueness. Colonial relations have often stolen and destroyed all of the cultural artifacts, so environmental experiences are uniquely important since they're one of the last remaining parts of indigenous cultural heritage. And communities willingly accept environmental regulations since they want to protect their home and livelihood. Bray 3 explains, responding to stringent environmental laws in the community interests of preserving the forest, many communities willingly embrace regulations often preceded to beyond themselves well being expected volume to conserve the resource. Communities are consistently willing to reduce extraction when unsustainable. Advantage 2 is economic non-domination. Now the communities own and manage their own forests, they use the profits to provide education, infrastructure, employment, and healthcare. Empirics prove. Bray 4. Data suggests community forest enterprises are economically useful. The gross margin range from 32% in secondary partners communities, 54% in some communities. If you go out of a study of 42 communities, the percentage of community members receiving income was 90% of railroad communities and 26% in secondary partner communities. Most generate employment for a quarter of the community labor force. Without community forests, there would be few local opportunities. Many communities invest significant funds into public goods like infrastructure, retirement pensions, public lighting, potable water system, clinics, and schools. Almost all 42 communities channel resources and social services. Communities also distribute profit proportionally to members. One study showed an average of 14% of household income coming from profit sharing. And this outweighs negative economy impacts. 1, empowerment. The net can only give indigenous people jobs in a Western corporation where they're just cogging the capitalist machine. In contrast, the F actually empowers indigenous people by allowing them to control their own economic development. 2, duration. The sustainable forest management will create jobs for generations, but resource extraction will increase temporary jobs that disappear once the forests are chopped down. And community forests reduce corporate exploitation and violence. Bray 5. Before community force enterprise, almost all profits flowed outside the community, but now communities generate significant employment and use the profits, the social and financial capital generated by communities managing their own forces brought relative peace to a region, rapid political violence, some associated with illegal logging. A survey of 42 community force enterprises found that all were profitable. And it's try or die. Even unsuccessful community force managed forests are better than uncontrollable clandestine logging. Cluster. Communities do a better job of managing forest management than on previous concession. Communities where no form of forest management exists and cutting continues. Even unsuccessful community managed forest management is an improvement on regional logging bans that entrench clandestine logging, which authorities are unable to control. And as an underview, 1. Objections from other countries don't apply since Mexico's system is unique. Bray 6 describes. In most developed countries, community forest enterprises involve management for non-timber forest products. Mexico is unique since most communities manage common property forests for the commercial production of timber. This model is almost entirely absent from literature. Second, affirmative gets RBIs. A, the negative always spread out the affirmative with multi mutually exclusive in terms like plants go to plants bad. RBIs lead to fair rounds, lead to sturge from this year. If I'm actually abusive, RBIs will create a chilling effect since the neg should easily win theory. And B, I need RBIs for an equal chance to win on theory since it's much harder to develop a shell and way across shells instead of just engaging the neg in the time crunch 1AR. That's I affirm.
Okay. So your cluster evidence says that even unsuccessful community forest management would be preferable. What's the word?
Okay, so it talks about what's happening in the status quo and like a description in like South American countries, and specifically that is that there are regional logging bans, entrenched clandestine logging, which authorities can't control. So the status quo.
So to be clear, if your app is entirely unsuccessful and it's just a minor technical reform, why would that still be preferable to the squad?
What? No, my app isn't a minor technical reform.
If it were the case that your app were in fact unsuccessful, why would that mean it's preferable to the squad?
Well, so the status quo is literally the government has zero control over logging, like corporations and like clandestine loggers. Yeah, if you're without any regulation, just tearing up the forest.
If your app is unsuccessful, presumably that problem continues. So why?
Well, my argument is in the status quo, the forests are being cut down without any regulation at all. So at least some oversight and regulation is going to be better than none at all.
Okay, so you state in your advocacy text that local communities must obey environmental regulations.
Yeah, so that's established.
What particular environmental regulations would they adhere to?
So that's established in the Bray 3 evidence, where there are specific stringent environmental laws that require them to maintain a certain amount of forest cover.
Wait, so what jurisdiction do these communities have if they're still regulated?
What?
Like, what do the communities control if they still obey environmental regulations?
So they are allowed to establish their own industries and use the profits to create jobs for their members, use the profits for schools. They're just only allowed to cut down a certain amount of the forest.
No, why can't they create their own industries in the square?
What?
Why can't they create their own industries now?
In the status quo?
Yeah.
Yeah, so there are two reasons. One is a lack of technical financial capital. That's part of the plan text, is that I provide like funding and these kinds of things that you need. You can't just like automatically start a logging industry when you are like living in poverty and you are constantly being threatened by violence, as the Brave 5.
Which evidence says that there's a lack of funding now?
What?
Which evidence says that there's a lack of funding?
Yeah, so that's both the Klooster evidence and the Brave 5 evidence, which talks about how in the status quo there is both violence against indigenous communities, corporate exploitation.
What does that have to do with funding?
Well, yeah, no. So the argument that I'm making is in the status quo there is a lack of like community control because corporations and other industries come in and do that.
Okay, so your day one evidence is about indigenous knowledge production. But
Yeah.
what does benefiting them economically have to do with their world?
Well, no. The first link to the day one evidence comes in the day two evidence. So the day one evidence talks about uniquely protecting indigenous epistemology.
Sure, that applies to the first advantage in that indigenous cultures have a unique connection to the environment. But how does that apply to the second advantage?
Well, so the second advantage talks about economic growth. That links back to the arguments in the framework coming from Butler and talks about how economic development is necessary to allow people to gain the political.
Where does Butler say anything about economic development?
Well, no. This is the argument that I would make in the link of the advantage.
That economic development is key to recognizing them as subjects?
Well, no. It's key to giving them a voice that allows them to assert themselves as subjects. Because if you are like trapped in poverty, it's very easy for politicians and other people to completely ignore your interests and erase your identity.
Okay, so let's see.
So like in the same way that like in the status quo, like groups with a lot of funding can dominate American politics and like ignore the perspectives
so
of people
if Mexico's system is so unique, how can this be modeled internationally?
It has been modeled internationally.
By what other countries?
Guatemala and Bolivia.
Okay, I'll take that. Okay, 330 left. So there are like a bunch of separate files here. It's just, there are 3 files. RVI is bad, speciesism K, and then case answers, V, A, or B. I think that's what it's called, just case answers.
Wait, sorry, so it's going to be K. Is there a theory show or is you just
Yeah, well, I was just telling you the specific files.
Oh, okay, got it.
Yeah. But the order's just going to be 2 off case.
Cool. And you said the files are called what?
RVI is bad, speciesism K, and that case answers.
Speciesism?
Yeah. Oh no, environmental regulation is bad. That's what the third file's called.
So to clarify, environmental regulation's bad.
Yeah, RVI is bad.
Speciesism K.
Yeah.
And then what?
And then environmental regulation. Yeah, RVI is bad, environmental regulation is bad, and then speciesism K.
Where's the theory show?
Oh, it's on paper.
Okay, what do you pass?
Yeah.
Is it on the flash action?
No, it's just on paper. Is everybody good? First off, topicality, A, resource extraction is limited to non-renewable resources, Pataki and Sagi 13. Production that can be renewed and increased should differentiate from resources that are exhaustible. Exhaustible energy resources of great importance. Firstly, fossil energy exploitation decreases supplies, and there is a possibility of exhausting these sources. This is called resource extraction. B, for starting renewable resource. C, standards. 1, textuality. Textuality is a premium fashion voted for the neg. It doesn't matter how fair or educational the app is. If the case doesn't affirm the topic, then he hasn't met the app burden. Also, textuality linked towards other theory standards because it's the basis for claims predictability and ground key violence when in conflict. A, prioritizing environmental protection would encourage renewable energy sources. GS 13. Non-renewable energy sources present problems successfully addressed by renewable sources. Fossil fuel research limited and fast the development of renewable energy contributes to more effective production of energy and other issues. Environmental pollution, renewable energy is playing a vital role in reducing CO2 emissions. It is clean and has a much smaller impact on the environment in comparison to conventional energy technologies. BA, developing country prioritizing resource extraction would also emphasize efficient use of renewable resources since that's key to long-term resource extraction. With non-renewable resources, there's actually a direct trade-off with environmental protection. See, community-based forestry in Mexico actually prioritizes resource extraction. Bray agrees, would aid. In Mexico, ecological considerations for CFM are highly variable. Most of the management is related to timber extraction with emphasis on volume rather than sustainability. See Bray in 2003. 2, precise limits specifying renewables explodes. The topic renewable energy comes from numerous existing sources, REW9. Fossil fuels are non-renewable. Many types of renewable resources such as wind and solar are constantly replenished, will never run out. Water vapor can be captured using hydroelectric power. Biomass can produce energy. Hydrogen can also be found in many organic compounds, but it doesn't occur naturally as gas once separated from another element. Hydrogen can be burned as a fuel. Geothermal taps the Earth's internal heat. Ocean energy comes from renewables. A number of sources. In addition to tidal energy, there's the energy of the ocean's waves, predictable limits to heat and fairness and education. Because I can't do in-depth track for this specific app, there are hundreds of asks for therefore limits are an independent voter. Harris 13. You don't speak to a consequence that could put together a strategy against any random argument, but there are only 79 CML and researching. I would like to play catch, read the book, or go to a movie world where there are imminent affirmative says this community doesn't care whether participants have a life to well in school or spend time with their families. To talk about anything without having to debate team, I can make debate that on the night where limits are a real impact because I feel their impact every day. Default small limits for LD because A, massive number of philosophies means have large limits already. B, massive limits excludes small school debaters since there's not enough time in the day for one person to cut 100 case. 3, stock around the core of the literature is on fossil fuels versus sustainability. Brain focusing on a minor reform to a renewable resource, to a renewable resource, these to coordinate ground like old science, politics, etc. C, fairness comes first because it's gateway issue to decide inventor, debater, drop the debater, because A, my time is already skewed. B, loss is key to turn, and C, when I restart with a brand new plan is too late to ensure clash, or topic education evaluate team can meet terms of reasonability is arbitrary and requires judge intervention, and Apple against RBIs, they concede violation of the voter, and the theory is evaluated through competing in terms of 4 reasons. 1, it's key to reciprocity because I need to reject the argument of reasonability, make RBIs indifferent to the app, which gives the app a 4-to-1 advantage on theory. 2, only happens to a counter-interpret can trigger an RBI. If the app doesn't win, my interpret's worse for debate, then it makes no sense to go after 3, if the app is going all in the theory with an RBI, they already have a circle source offense, so I need some reasonability on T. 4, double-blind, if the I need to reject the arg is false, the app doesn't need them. If the I need to reject the arg is true, app doesn't need the RBI. Next off is the critique. Civil society is fundamentally opposed to animals. The human-animal divide is the foundation of modern biopolitics. 1 will 8. The civil political sphere where the political is declared representation, measure, participation in the ballot has inherent limitations, pressure, and violence towards animals. Animals are always secondary entities, not to political agency, naturally bestowed on humans. Animal rights functions reproduce the same fundamental differentiation. The political sphere aims to exclude the animal life as its primary activity. Biological life is to give place within sovereignty to vulnerability in relation. Sovereign power, bare life, represents life. Within the sovereign word is listed for sovereign power to kill without committing homicide. For this reason, sovereignty constitutes life within the context of power over life and death. A government identifies this process as considered the human-animal divide. These sites of political conflict, which governs every other conflict between animal and humanity. This is the Western politics. Biopolitics is no coincidence. Aristotle describes human as a political animal. Animal is an animal. Also beyond other animals whose natural residence within political community. This construction of the subject illustrates biopolitical connection human to animal bare existence. Sustainable development is anthropocentrically radical rejection of Western civilization. Consult the environment and firms fail. Richardson 98. The Anthro paradigm illustrated through local Agenda 21 urges sustainability and growth are not incompatible, rather the resources used more efficiently. The report emphasizes the poor having greater access to resources, which rank counter to the report's principle of reducing overall consumption to avoid difficult political choices that governments have taken. The Anthro approach, consumers and profligate use of resources constitute the basis of Western civilization, typical to emphasize man and women voluntarily accepting reduced standards of living, thus preoccupation with simulating Anthro and ecological paradigm. The Anthro approach specified terminology, sustainability based on the progressive liquidation or the ultimately industrial economic development of destruction, economic aspirations of undeveloped regions situationally worse unless there's radical reduction. Human effort and understanding. 2 impacts. A. Anthropocentrism is epistemically suspect. All alternative forms of knowledge production are key. DOS 14. Improving knowledge requires banning anthro drives and demonstrates a human cognition, psychological attitudes, language, cultural beliefs, history, memories, nature, strict can know human knowledge may be constrained by evolution. Knowledge was originally driven by the need to master the environment. Knowledge is also influenced by fear, greed, ambition, altruism, as well as power relationships, behavioral science, illustrates inherent biases. Even not every philosophy hides the philosophy. Understanding of fundamental issues remains limited. Transcending anthro may allow human beings to think more clearly, clear possibilities outside normal experience and thought. B. This species contingent paradigm causes genocide, turns indigenous people co-chain ordinate. If we take away the Holocaust, we must include the annihilation of indigenous peoples, the manner in which their practice has been erased from what the West considered human heritage events. Thus, the Holocaust not an aberration of the North. European colonization justified arguments that indigenous inhabitants close to apes and humans. Violence justified erroneous view race is merely extension of underlying species. The worst humans consider themselves counters. Creation for all animals, all people are Nazis, left in church of The alternative is a complete and radical breakaway from humanism by developing countries only the all can solve nationally denied. Starting ecological distinctions along with the governments and sanctions, sustainable and revolution, no government on seas, power to dissolve tireless apparatus, which people relate nature, we go anarchism, necessity, the wholesale replacement of civilization, institutional ethical framework, and remain suspicious of those who would save the world by banning aerosol cans. The only meaningful long-term solutions place the modern world at least rally with a holistic ethic that has its basis respect for all nature. Capitalism induces nature raw materials with utilitarian value. Capitalism presents death throes, and the coming revolution for universal liberation, including your relationship to nature's basis with recognition everything existed first, foremost, for its own take nature, 2 ways to revolution. Now the AC, go to the bottom where he says RBIs are good. RBIs are bad. 1, RBIs make no sense because they're reduced to vote for me because unfair, which isn't a reason to vote. Thus reject the RBI basis. Logic is based on threshold argument has to meet matter. 2, RBIs create bad argumentative practices that turn defense and offense. 3, RBIs justify abuse of bases. The outcome always write a more contextual and depth counter interpretation over the RBI. So the negligence major risk losing ground just by calling it abuse. 4, RBIs may reading theory and possibly decide to spend all 7 minutes on the anti theory and on all substance can be relevant to theories, voter and RBI. 5, theories fair because it's reciprocal. Can get off on the theory full of reading their own theory. Shell 6, RBIs are unreciprocal because negative doesn't have access to them. If he says negative RBIs, you're being disingenuous. There's no good justification in our RBIs. He says times you 1, now you need all arguments you times 2. Times 2 standards bad, they discourage word economical arguments. RBIs punish me being efficient. 3, any times you classify theories sold in round strategic choice, so it's justified next strategy, not abuse. Now the framework. The Butler evidence is about including people as subjects and including people who are not actually recognized as subjects, but this is precisely an additional way to the critique, whereas he only recognized the human subject, the animals are not recognized as subjects at all, which means that controlling internally into his framework. Also, the Day evidence says that we need to address indigenous suppression by including them into the political, but that links to the water well evidence, and that we are just including indigenous people into a political system that is always anti-animal, which means that further suppression. Now the contention level. When Mexico's models fail to ensure sustainability, the author assumes F studies RA11. The vast majority of Mexico's forests are under legal jurisdiction communities. Recent studies show that sustainably managed community forests can be effective. Despite these gains, the bulk of Mexico's forest communities not practicing sustainable management, only 5% achieve business development and profitability of its forest conversion forest communities, sustainably small percentage of market value forest products on their lands, and the plan excludes the poor Mahanti and L6. Researchers paid less attention to equity and cost sharing opportunity costs of attending forest user grouping here, or labor cost managing community forests may be unacceptably high for the forest, which diminishes their capacity to benefit from CVM processes. Both stakeholders make the voice heard, have equity implications. Those economic social events tend to be more likely to participate in forest user groups. He says that the environmental harms that he solves outweigh to the best denied evidence. Speciesism is the root cause of I've said speciesism is the root cause of the environmental harms. The Richardson 98 evidence says that Anthro is the reason why we exploit nature. Cross-legs. Here's the Mahanti et al. 6 of.
Sorry. Okay. Can I just quickly organize this? Which of these pieces of paper go with the K and which of them go with theory shell?
Okay, yeah. So
this is all the theory shell, right?
Yeah. So this goes with K.
And you did not read the FL part, right?
Yeah, I did.
So what was the violation?
The violation is that forests are removable resource.
Ready?
Yep.
You read a lot of offs. What comes first, theory or the K?
I'd say that T is gateway issue.
Okay. So to clarify, theory and fairness comes first.
Yeah, fairness is gateway issue.
Okay. What comes first, fairness or limits?
Limits is an independent voter. That's Harris 13.
Okay. How do we weigh between limits and fairness?
I'd say that limits,
do you do any weighing?
Well, the Harris 13 evidence says that limits is a prerequisite to meaningful participation.
The Harris card is just complaining that I want to go outside and read a book, but I can't do that if we don't have limits. How is this an independent voter that makes it clear
yeah,
the judge's
it
obligation?
shows that limits on the topic are a prerequisite to meaningful and effective participation in debate. So I'd say
this card just says, I would like to play catch, read a book, or go to a movie. Why is this a reason why the judge cares
his
about
point
limits?
is that if there are infinite apps, then people wouldn't be able to participate meaningfully.
Okay,
the crowd would be spread thin and they wouldn't be able to.
So, under your interpretation of the resolution, what is a legitimate app?
A legitimate aff would be one that leads to a net decrease in oil, natural gas, or minerals.
Natural gas or minerals. Okay. So why are forests a renewable resource? If we like cut down the forest and like burn down the land, it's gonna come back.
Forests regenerate, unlike oil.
Okay. So the argument is just like it can't regenerate.
Yeah, well, forests do regenerate. Oil doesn't.
Okay, that's fine. Why is okay? So what does the GS3 evidence say?
So the GS3 evidence is that in T.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
wait, is the violation when in conflict, or is the violation of the term
the
natural?
violation is resource extraction,
Okay.
but the GS13 evidence proves that your interpretation of resource extraction would be inconsistent with another phrase in the resolution or when in
Okay,
conflict.
that's fine. So are all of these arguments based on? Wait. So then, what's this floating would ain't argument? Say like where it says like community-based forestry prioritizes
Well, that's
resource extraction.
That's an additional reason why you violate.
Wait, so how much? Wait, so is the T-shell resource extraction, or are you also criticizing whether the app is topical and whether
the textuality,
it's
okay, so I provide an interpretation of what resource extraction is, and my definition should be preferred over your definition in the app, because your definition in the app would be inconsistent with the phrase when in conflict.
Okay, that's fine. So let's talk about the voter section. Do you read a reason why fairness is a voter?
Yeah, I say fairness is a gateway issue to increase these.
Well, why does that mean that like the judge doesn't just like drop the plan?
I provide 3 warrants why the judge should drop.
Okay, that's fine. So let's go to the K.
Okay.
Where do you provide like a normative framework that explains why speciesism matters?
So the DOS 14 evidence says that rejecting anthropocentrism is an epistemic prerequisite. And that
Why?
the reason why we have anthropocentric biases is due to arbitrary things like language or culture.
Okay, so what's the alternative of the K?
The alternative is that developing countries completely break away with humanism.
Wait, so why doesn't environmental protection do that better than resource
The
extraction?
Richardson 98 evidence says that sustainable development is anthropocentric. The evidence is talking about local agenda 21, which was.
Do you defend resource extraction?
No, I defend that developing countries prioritize challenging the human nature dichotomy.
Wait, but you do not defend resource extraction?
No.
Okay. Do you defend the status quo?
No, I defend that developing countries prioritize rejecting the human nature dichotomy.
Oh, okay. I have 5 minutes of prep starting now.
I'm gonna get some more water.
Yeah. What does it mean to like break away from humanism?
The National United evidence says that we should completely reject the human.
What does that look like?
Well, one effect of that would be dissolving the state.
Okay. What is the warrant and precise limits?
The warrant is that renewables would explode the topic and that there are so many different types of renewable resources, like biomass, geothermal, wind, solar, water, forests, ocean energy. So you justify like significantly more apps than we'd otherwise have to do.
You justify fairness as a voter, right?
Yeah, I say fairness precedes substance.
Cool. Okay, I have 35 seconds left. The order is going to be first on the negatives T shell, then we're going to do new theory shell, then we're going to go to critique.
Okay. Kicking the app.
What?
Kicking the app.
Yeah.
Oh. Wait, you're going to the AC last?
Yeah,
Okay.
if there's time. So it's going to be first on the violation.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh, I'm going to be reading the cards. Do you want this?
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Sorry for the lights.
No worries.
Okay, it's called Tomasi Money.
Okay, good. Alrighty, I'm ready.
Ready? So, again, starting on the IB. Tomasi completely misunderstands the app. Even though the app has control over the forest land, it doesn't mean that the only resource that exists there is the forest. First, community forests extract minerals like gold. Schwartzman. Employee indigenous preserve maintain biodiversity to allow selective logging and gold mining through common property resource management. Two, indigenous control over forest land directly conflicts with oil extraction. Hill. Exploitation of oil for Peru's rainforest inhabited by indigenous people save for $1 billion a year, but exploit 200 million barrels of oil that attracted conservatives that will affect indigenous people. The negotiations that exclude indigenous people. This fails to respect international law and violates indigenous people's right to consent. Many indigenous communities will be affected, but since oil will be transported along rivers too crucial for their survival. One indigenous organization proposed a reserve for the indigenous people. Thus, the fact that the indigenous people are using this for land conflicts with oil extraction, which means that a non-renewable resource. These are two examples which means that I don't violate shell. Also, third, off the violation. Forests are not a renewable resource. Forests are not a renewable resource under its interpretation because even if forests can regrow, that doesn't mean that they're renewable. Because after a forest has been cut down, the forest has been burned down and replaced by agriculture. It will not grow back because there's other things that are planted on top of it, so it's not a renewable resource. Then off the in conflict. One. He says that there's no conflict with the resolution. Oh, this is the GS part, but one, there is conflict because the cluster evidence at the bottom of the plan says there is a massive conflict because the status quo resources extraction is unsustainable. That is the conflict. My argument is that we should prioritize resource extraction and end the resource extraction that is occurring unsustainably in the status quo. So that is the conflict between resource extraction. The second argument, the B point, says that it would also there's no direct trade-off, but there is a direct trade-off because the cluster evidence says that in the status quo is uncontrollable clandestine logging that is absolutely tearing up the Amazonian forest. My argument is that we should slow that down and reduce this so there is a conflict because there is a net decrease in trading. That the C point says that community forests actually Bray agrees, Bray says that it says an emphasis on sustainability. He says it's an emphasis on sustainability rather than volume. One, this is a net shift in the status quo, so this is always going to be net preferable. But second, the community forest enterprises are explicitly in the Bray one evidence in the absence that insofar as it results in a 3% expansion of forest cover, it's always going to be better, even if they emphasize volume rather than sustainability. That doesn't mean that it empirically doesn't protect the environment better than protect areas like forests. Then off the precise limit standard, he says it explodes the top of one. He says it explodes the top of one. There's no warrant for why this is unique. Why this is uniquely bad. If it's within the top, then it should be within the limits. It's not my fault that the framers created a bad topic. Then off of his interpretation, it's like a counter standard. Extend barrens is the counter-interpretation. Resource extraction covers the extraction of biomass materials, including forestry. For this definition, this is key to the topic. 97 articles in Google Scholar cite barrens, and that's quantitative proof that barrens is an influential and prominent author led to barrens. Explicitly discusses sustainable resource use. The definition is most relevant to environmental protection in the topic's context, whereas his definition is literally nothing to do with topic link, which is the strongest link definition in terms of each side's ground and the ability to form a predictable basis for pre-round collecting. This also controls the interlink to predictable limits, since the topic determines what predictable limits should be and what they ought to be, not what we arbitrarily say that we are just sort of lazy and we don't want to have to debate it. This controls the interlink to his standards. Next off, new shell. If the affirmative defends a policy option, then the negative tails must be a competitive policy option that defends resource extraction. He's the violation. He defends a humanistic approach, which one doesn't defend resource extraction, and two isn't a policy option. As far as he just advocates a mindset shift towards humanism, it doesn't actually defend a specific policy or way to implement that shift. Sees the standards, one limits. This also links back to his vote, but this one limits the negative averages. The negative can literally read any possible way. The negative go farther left and read any anthropocentrism came on the averages exactly what he did. There's literally no this also kills percent debate, which controls the internal link to education, because he can literally be in affirmative position by criticizing the affirmative for going farther left by reading by reading a different model of environmental protection, which conflicts with the app. Also, this because he can this also gives explodes negative ground, because he can literally critique any assumption that is implicit in the affirmative advocacy. For example, like the fact that I don't account for intersectionality, the fact that I don't account for disabled and other kinds of criticism, so this explodes this ground with this unpredictable limit. Second is affirmative ground. The entirety of the affirmative is based on is designed to be comparative, to be designed to be a comparison between a world of resources of environmental protection in the status quo versus the status quo and other options. He completely undermines the assessment by refusing to defend a policy option, which gives me no basis for comparison. That controls the interlink comparison, completely moots any arguments that I made in the AC, because they have no basis for comparison, because they can't be compared against the text.
Okay, I have like 3 minutes left. Could I set the case cards there?
I don't know
The
what
solvency answers.
Yeah. Let's...
Oh, I'll set T. Thanks, dude. Okay. The file is just going to be called 2NR on theory. It'll just be like theory 2NR, I guess. So the order is going to be quickly on the AC contention, and then a counterinterp to his shell. Counterinterp to his shell, and then my top cavity argument.
Sorry, would you say one more time? It's called
What was that?
Theory 2 and R?
Yeah.
Okay, I see it. So where are you starting?
I'm starting on the cards I read on the contention level about how community-based forestry is that. Is everyone good?
He's conceded that Mexico's model for community-based forestry failed to ensure sustainability. That's RA11. He's also conceded Mahan's Galaxy the plan excludes the board. I'm the only one with offense on substance. Now counterinterpret his new shell. Counterinterpret the negative reading critique which challenges the human nature dichotomy 1. The app transforms debate into a rigged game. Spanus 11. Debate is a reprocessed frame to exclude anything the frame can't domesticate. The frame needs to be rearranged outside. The frame doesn't stand a chance. Everything outside the frame doesn't exist to perceive he or she is blind with this frame. Reduce the living force into things that you take hold of and explained by the inquirer. This evidence that he's excluding alternative forms of knowledge production from debate by excluding the critique. This isn't saying the limits in general are bad, but that we have to account for alternative forms of knowledge production, which is exactly what the critique does. 2. Strats view case or coordinate straps. They check back unpredictable asks. I need case that can mitigate app offense because the app chooses the area debate and thus will always have more specific substance research. Also, the abuse on T outweighs. I had to read a generic and the anthropocentrism critique because his app was untoppable, which means that the amount of negligent I could have gone for was very minimal, which means that if my critique was abusive, this is actually a reason to prefer T because he forced me into it. 3. His exclusion of the critiques from a privileging status discourse. This plum system destroys fairness and meaningful education for 71. The plum system confronts not partner in search of truth, but an enemy's existence constitutes that the game is not consist of recognizing the person having the right to speak, but abolishing dialogue. Polemics allows for no possibility of equal discussion as the political model that is most powerful today. Polemics establishes the others as an enemy against which one must fight to the moment the enemy out surrenders, or disappears as dangerous fate, and believing gain access to truth by such path. 4. Wikisauce predictability. This case disclosed. 5. Topic education. This case keep analyzing the entirety of the topic lit as opposed to superficially assuming the dominance of humanity. This is the most important form of policy education. Spin 97. Academics run the risk having to work within the policy community and unable to stand back and examine the moral and political implications given policy advice. Means taking this policy makers start reports analysis to find no academic activity more ethical and showing epistemological assumptions. Truthfully, it's meaning for the regime's now when it speaks power. The task of activity show relationships between truth and power operate as the ultimate ethical engagement. But also, there's an additional internal link to education. Critiquing anthropocentrism in educational settings is key to open up possibilities for new forms of that Bell and Russell today. Manifestations of the environmental crisis, e.g. species extinction, climate change, by concepts, nature, casts, boundless matter, new resource to be exploited, and ability to respond rests on a willingness to critique prevailing discourses about nature of educators, which resist oppressions or projects, but still calling into question the exploitative gaze, through which human existence are self-attribute social categories, and stable to reproduce relations of power, the anthrocentric bias manifests itself in silence, this drives persuasiveness from seeming ficticity. It's because the normal way of seeing the world limits possibilities are instead supplement the educational the relationship between education, domination, and nature. And education is key because it's the end goal of debate. Substance doesn't matter unless there's an educational benefit to discussing it. I'll concede that fairness generally comes first, but an education link this large is a reason to gain on strength link and air neg speaks first and last, and its infinite prep time. Squo theory norms are already app bias, and environmental protection that substantially favors the app. That's also an additional reason why I get the critique, because environmental protection limit is substantially app biased, which means I need arguments like anthro that would otherwise be app arguments in order to go significantly farther left than the app in order to check back the app bias in terms of the lit. And also, his own app violates his interpretation because he reads his app all the time as a topical counterclaim, which proves that he also violates limits in the sense that he can read his app on both sides, and he also kills switch side debate, which would kill education. Then he says that I explode neg ground because I can critique any assumption, but 1. Since he chooses the area debate, he should be prepared. He should be prepared for the specific assumptions that he should be able to defend. For example, he gave you an example of critiques that could definitely read against his app. For example, an intersectionality critique or an anthropocentrism critique. There's no reason why he shouldn't be able to actually prepare these arguments. Also, he said on T that limits doesn't have an impact, which means it also takes out his own limit standard. Limits doesn't have an impact. Don't vote on his own limit standard either. Now, top calorie. Extend the Kentucky and Saki 13 evidence of resource extraction is limited to non-renewable resources. And he says that forests are not a renewable resource, but forests are a renewable resource, FL12. When it's derived from a renewable source, forests are able to replenish these major inputs that contribute to the growth are sunlight, air, water, nutrients from soils. Even if the status quo is major agriculture that limits the possibility of forests actually growing back, forests are capable of being renewable, unlike oil, minerals, or natural gas. So that still makes forests a renewable resource as far as the literature goes. Now textuality. He's conceded that textuality is a prima facie voter for the next system. Doesn't matter how fair or educational the app is, if the case doesn't differ on the topic, then he hasn't met the app burden. He's also conceded textuality controls the internal link to other theories, tendency to reasons. It is the basis for claims predictability and ground. Even if the Barron's definition might be really good in a vacuum, the Barron's definition is not good on this topic particularly, since it does not cohere with the other phrase when in conflict. In order for the app to be textual, his app has to be consistent with all the words and phrases in the resolution. Even if his Barron's definition is a really good definition of resource extraction in terms of being cited by a lot of authors, that lit consensus is is not sufficient to actually affirm on this topic, given that he violates when in conflict. Instead, GS13 prioritizing environmental protection would actually encourage renewable energy sources. Why? Evidence says that non-renewable energy sources like fossil fuels present unique environmental problems. So people would actually shift to renewable resources in order to check back the environmental harms from non-renewable resources. So renewable resources would actually prioritize environmental protection. So given that he limits renewable resource extraction, that isn't actually prioritizing environmental protection when the two conflict. Also, he's conceded that a developing country prioritizing resource extraction would also emphasize efficient use of renewable resources, since that's key to long-term resource extraction. With non-renewable resources, there's actually a direct trade-off with environmental protection. This is a unique reason to perform my interpretation. It's also a reason why his app does not actually affirm in the context of when in conflict. His app actually prioritizes resource extraction. That's also supported by the Wood 8 evidence, which explicitly cites the same Bray article that Andrew reads. Andrew cites the Bray article from 2003. My evidence also cites that same article and notes that Bray agrees that most of community forest management is related to timber extraction with emphasis on volume rather than sustainability. Andrew says that his plan is the effect of solving the environment, but that just means that his plan is effects topical. The direct mandate of the plan is not prioritizing environmental protection. Now, he says that he meets the interpretation because there is mineral and oil extraction that occurs in community-based resource management. But one, this would just prove that his app is extra topical because he says this app is not only about forest resources, and extra topicality is unfair, it kills dead ground, explodes the topic. Also, these cards are about community-based resource management, not community-based forestry management. Specifically, community-based forestry management has nothing to do with minerals, whereas community-based resource management in general would. Also, his cards are about countries like Peru, they're not about Mexico, which means they don't actually justify the topicality of his app.
Okay. I have 35 seconds left. I'll start now. So, here's how the round is going to work. I'm going to start with a comparison of our two interpretations and an explanation of the net benefits to each. That's going to be on my shelf first. I'm going to extend those. We're going to do weighing there. Then we're going to go to the topicality shelf. And then crystallize. Extend the apt interpretation. If the apt is a policy option, the negative tails must be a competitive policy option that defends resource extraction. The biggest problem with Tomasi's strategy is that his counterinterpretation is not competitive. He says that the neg can read a critique which challenges the human nature dichotomy, but there's no reason why he cannot challenge the human nature dichotomy while also defending a competitive policy option that defends resource extraction. So, for example, he could say, policy option, legally define animals as human beings that have rights and deserve protection. And deserve protection, like use resource extraction to like provide to fund the system or something like that. There's no reason why he cannot defend a policy option that breaks down the human-animal dichotomy. He could defend multiple different policy options that give animals rights, or a policy option that incorporates animals into the decision calculus of resource extraction. But he needs to defend a specific policy option that defends resource extraction that is competitive with the app. So. This means that his interpretation is not competitive with my interpretation, that he has no unique net benefits. Because under my interpretation, he can still read arguments that challenge the human nature dichotomy. He just has to do them in a way that promotes this kind of discourse. Also, so now extend the affirmative ground argument in my standard. Extend that when the negative does not have to defend a policy option that defends resource extraction, this leads to horrible affirmative ground because the affirmative is set up its ground is set up so that it is meant to contrast the affirmative advocacy of resource extraction with environmental protection with resource extraction. This means that when he does not defend that, there's no basis for comparison. This also controls the internal link to his arguments because there's no clash, which means he can't discuss which policy option best deconstructs the human nature dichotomy. This controls the internal link to all of his education arguments because we don't actually have any substantive clash about who's deconstructing this dichotomy better if we're comparing two things that aren't remotely similar at all, with the very idea of deconstructing this dichotomy with two different policies. We need two different policies to discuss who best does that better by having this basis for comparison. Even comparison, this allows us to access the benefits in Sponus and all the cards that he's talking about. So, also extended out of that, or this argument is key to fairness. He says that like I chose. He says off limits that I chose the area of the topics I should be able to prepare for this system. So that in fact there are hundreds of different critiques that he could run. He could run a blackness critique, an intersectionality critique, and anthropocane. There's literally no limit to the number of critiques that he could run. He says that limits doesn't have any impact. I'm looking at fairness to be after argument. So on my shelf, he's conceded that fairness comes first, and this means that I control the net benefits to his interpretation. This means that on fairness you would vote out. So now go to his shelf. He's dropping 3 different IMEs, all of which are extremely well warranted. First, extend the Schwarzman evidence on indigenous Amazonian reserve. There's the indigenous also construct gold mining. He says that, so this means that he doesn't lose any of the ground. He doesn't lose any ground because he doesn't lose any ground, or he doesn't lose any ground. So this falls back for his interpretation because I don't just do forestry. I don't just do forestry, and he says this is extra T because it kills negative ground. But there's really no warrant for why extra T is bad. It's a parts of giving him disadds that can relate to these grounds. There's no reason why this is bad. Also extend that forests are renewable resources. After they've been burned down, there's no way for the forest to grow back after it's been planted over with agriculture. Supports are renewable, but also his argument is that my argument doesn't show conflict. But my argument does show conflict. He's not responding to the cross application of the booster evidence in the status quo. There's excessive resource extraction that's harming the environment, so there is a conflict there, and we need to decide whether or not we want to prioritize this extraction or continue environmental extraction. Right.
Did I see the T and the Schwarzman card?
Yeah.
And the AC?
And does the affirmative have a plan text?
I do.
I could just see this.
So this is the Schwarzman, they were the AC, it's just right behind it.
I think so.
Do you want to look at this person?
It's